All right, hello and welcome. I am a stickler for time, so we're gonna go on and get started, and hopefully that means that you'll have time to transition in between the sessions. Thank you for coming to SaaS Innovate and for coming to this presentation where we're going to be talking about transitioning your enterprise guide projects and flows to SaaS Studio flows. So you've heard a lot while here at SaaS Innovate about the benefits of VIA, the new products that are coming out on VIA, the capabilities of the co-pilots, but we know a lot of people are very comfortable with their enterprise guide. And so sometimes there's that barrier or that hesitation to change that Mel Robbins was talking about around, I have my projects, I know they work, I want to be able to just keep pressing start, let it run, get what I need. Why would I transition? What's the value? So we're really going to be talking about the benefits and the differences between running on enterprise guide projects versus SaaS Studio flows, including some of the scalability and increased functionality, learning some of the step-by-step migration strategies, including what you might need to assess in your projects, how to import the content, and being aware that there are still some feature parities between enterprise guide and SaaS Studio, so making sure you're considering that as you go. I want to highlight right here that we are looking at this from an individual project import and transition. So there is a CLI that allows for bulk imports for a SaaS admin. However, I know a lot of my customers have one-off projects that each person does, and so that's the approach we're going to be taking from this. There's a resource at the end of the PDF that does go through the content assessment and the bulk import for those of you who are looking at doing a large-scale migration. And then we'll also talk about some of the best practices. So, also, since I forgot to introduce myself, I'm Susan Lawhead. I'm a pre-sales solutions architect in the public sector for the state of North Carolina. So, again, have a lot of large-scale public sector people who are moving individual projects to SaaS VIA. So why might we want to transition to Studio Flows? On top of everything you've heard about VIA in general, Studio Flows is that web-based client for easy access regardless of your location. I don't know how many of you have ever had to get a new laptop, but recently my laptop broke and I had to get a new one. And going through the process of getting my enterprise guide reinstalled took a little bit of time. That can be annoying if you're having to track down your license, get it installed, make sure your device has the right space and setup. Whereas with Studio Flows, you're able to go to the URL, log in, and have access to it all right there. We also have the ability to bring Python in. We know that more and more teams are using multiple languages, whether it be different programmers or one programmer taking advantage of the unique features of Python or R or SaaS. And by going into Studio Flows, you're able to bring in that open source integration, more of the API calls right there in your flows. When you are running flows in Enterprise Guide, you can link things and you can set an order, but typically Enterprise Guide is going to run up to down, left to right. And if things are separate tasks, they're separate tasks. Within Studio Flows, there's the opportunity to optimize the code. So we know that in Enterprise Guide tasks, it's building out that code in the background. And the same thing is happening in SaaS Studio. But in the flows, you can check to please optimize. And if you have multiple steps that are using the data step, it will go in and combine them for you, thus improving the speed, the runtime. It minimizes the temporary tables that are being created. So that functionality exists in Studio Flows. We have more built-in low-code, no-code steps available, including a large open source community. So you don't have to wait for R&D to create new custom steps and wait for your cadence update and your environment to be upgraded. You're able to go to Git and see what other people are doing that has the stamp of approval, but can be iterated on at a much quicker pace, and you're able to then bring that into your environment. And so that also allows you to, if you create your own custom step, to share it broadly and let other people take advantage of the great tools you've created for your team. There's still also a lot that is the same. We know that in both Enterprise Guide and SaaS Studio, you can use CAS or compute context if you have the right server. You're able to access multiple data interfaces. You're able to still do the autofill coding and debugging, and you can maintain that Git integration that you already have set up in Enterprise Guide through the SaaS Studio. I want to clarify here because sometimes people throw out migration and other times we talk about modernization, and there is a distinction here. So migration is when we're talking about just transferring the materials. So this is taking your project, picking it up as it is, and making sure it can run. There might be a few updates, but we're not optimizing it, we're not improving it for the specific CAS language functionalities, the multi-parallel processing. That would be more modernization. That would be going in and mapping those old functionalities to the new ones and choosing the best options. You can do them both at the same time, but you don't have to. You can just take your Enterprise Guide project, import it, and have it run, or you could, in the same time, bring in those newer functionalities, update the code for CAS, and really take it to that next level. Whichever one you want to do is going to be based on where your team is at, the skill sets you have, and the time. Maybe you need to pick up and run all in one go. But maybe you're able to run things in parallel. That will define which path you might want to take. If you can continue running things in Enterprise Guide while you migrate and modernize versus you're shutting off one environment and going to the other. So we can sit here and talk about it all day, but we are going to have a demo. I recorded it because we always like to make sure things run smoothly. But before you start doing a migration, there's some things that you want to make sure that you are considering. You want to be looking at the data you have. Is the data available both in your Enterprise Guide server and in your VIA server? You can migrate it, the file, but if the data is not there, it's not going to run. You want to make sure you've evaluated the Enterprise Guide project for the steps and tasks that have not transitioned or migrated fully. We have some great documentation that continues to be updated as R&D pushes out more steps and more updates in SaaS Studio, but there are some pieces that have not fully transitioned. We don't have 100% parity yet. You also want to know that embedded files, such as an Excel file that might be embedded in your Enterprise Guide project, isn't going to be embedded when you move it to Studio Flows. So those are some of those pieces you'll need to just evaluate as you go. But as we're about to see, the process in and of itself for taking a project from Enterprise Guide and moving it into SaaS Studio and having your flow run is pretty straightforward.
Today, we will be talking about how to migrate an existing Enterprise Guide project into your VIA 4 environment, converting it into a SaaS Studio flow. You'll see here that we have an existing Enterprise Guide project with two separate process flows in it, each with multiple SaaS tasks. This is data from a mock company that looks at employee travel expenses by department in the first process flow, and then the sales to gold level members by age group in the second flow. On the Employee tab, we start with two SaaS tables that are in our Innovate library. A SaaS summary statistic task is run on the Employee Master table, and then we use the Query Builder to join the tables and create a new table. We use a bar chart task to create a chart with this new table. We're going to open this bar chart task so that we can review the layout and see that the order is set to descending bar height. I've already run this project, so you're able to see that we have the output in Enterprise Guide. Coming over to the sales process flow, we start with a CSV and use an import task for the data. And then from the imported data, we create a one-way frequency of the product groups. And then we use the filter and sort task to select only sales from the Gold Club members. We then create a bar chart here as well. Once again, reviewing the layout, we're able to see that in this bar chart, it shows up with the order of automatic. So that is our Enterprise Guide project. We will now switch over to SAS Studio. Before we do, take a quick look at the Enterprise Guide layout. We see everything on the left-hand side and our working space on the right-hand side. Here we have the standard selections on the left-hand side, including SAS Studio, SAS Server, SAS Content, SAS Steps, which is the equivalent of SAS Tasks in Enterprise Guide, code snippets, libraries, and Git integration. Our working space is still on the right-hand side. I do want to point out that I already have an Innovate library that has the same employee master and travel expenses table. That will become important when we do our import. So now we'll go over to Manage Environment. This is where users are able to review various aspects of their environment, including content, servers, data, jobs, credentials, and more. We're going straight to the import section so we can bring the Enterprise Guide project into SAS Viya. And we're going to use Project 2. We see the project here and how it has an ID and that we're able to select mappings. Mappings are what tell the Viya environment how to match up different things it has found within the Enterprise Guide project to things within the Viya environment. We're going to use Demo Clean. It's going to analyze the Enterprise Guide project and tell us the potential mappings we can provide for our project. We see here the target location and Enterprise Guide projects underneath contents. This is where you want your new file to land within your Viya environment. You only need to use one of these based on if you're wanting your project to land within the SAS content section or if you're using a file server. We're going into SAS content, so we'll put it under our next level demo. Reference paths is where it's saying, hey, you referenced the CSV in your process flow at this location on your local machine. Do you want to tell us where it might live on Viya? I'm going to bypass this mapping for today. We're going to personally map that after the import. So I can click Import Now. We can see that this finished rather quickly, but we did receive some output with messages, including warnings. If we move over to the log, we're able to review the warnings, and we see that multiple nodes were not able to be converted. We see that all of these nodes are HTML nodes. This is because Enterprise Guide uses HTML as the standard output and creates a task in the flow for each output. This is not the standard output within SAS Viya, so those nodes are not converted. It does not stop you from getting your results, they just show up in a different way. The log also tells us that the Enterprise Guide project contains more than one flow, and we'll need to determine the order of the flows when we are in Viya. We can make a mental note of that and move on. We have the option to download the results, which I recommend doing so that you have a CSV for record keeping, auditing, or just general awareness. Now we're going to go back to Develop Flows and find our project. Here we're able to come into the SAS content folder, and we see that Project 2 has been created as a folder, and then we're able to see that the 2 flows are available. We see each process flow in the project became its own file, and so we'll go on and start with the employee travel flow. Remember I said I was pulling tables in from the Innovate library and Enterprise Guide? I already have an Innovate library here, and so we're able to map these tables immediately, and the data already shows up for us to see what's in the columns. We do notice a warning that some custom steps have been updated, and we see that our bar chart appears as a SAS program step, not a bar chart step. This is because of the ascending and descending order. That aspect is not supported yet in our migration. However, you can see here that if we press run, we will be able to get the output from our flow. Even without resolving those 2 warnings, we're able to get the output and results, including our bar chart. Now we can transfer back over to the sales flow. And you remember that we began here by importing data, but we're going to come here and we're going to import a file from the server. I'm going to select the same CSV with the same name and click OK. And because it is a newly connected CSV, we do need to analyze it. This is SAS looking at it, picking up the details of it, etc. We're able to look and see how the data is going to look when it is imported. And again, without addressing any of the warnings about custom steps being updated, we were able to run our program and see our results. Remember that this bar chart did not have an order set on it. We're able to see that this imported as the specific bar chart step. We can now go over to the submitted code and results, and we have our one-way frequency and our bar chart.
Okay.
We're also able to look at our data and see how it has been imported in.
There's pros and cons to doing a recorded demo versus doing it live, such as remembering when it ends.
Today, we will be talking.
There we go. All right, so that gives you a basic idea. Obviously, many people have enterprise guide projects that are significantly more intensive, extensive, multiple processes. And so you need to evaluate each of yours individually before you make this move. This is where you, again, as I said, need to go through and look at, do you have all the data? Can it get into your VIA environment? Evaluate the most recent R&D documentation that says which steps have transitioned. Are there any caveats, like with the bar chart that we saw, where it might come over, but pending the options that you have set on it, it's going to come over as a code versus as a specific step? That may be something you want to update later on, but you saw that it still ran successfully and you were able to take advantage of VIA. Some of the project level properties are still being updated, and with that, I had a whole list of things that were not supported yet, but in the most recent update, a lot of that is. And so instead of putting a list of those things here, such as the conditional processing or the prompting, those are some of the project level pieces that you would think about, and saying if they are or are not supported. The documentation will be up to date regardless of when you are watching this, because it is recorded. You saw there that the process flows and layouts did stay consistent between Enterprise Guide and SAS Studio. And so you do want to check that, though, obviously. When we talk about any of this, it's always that going back and checking, similar to the human in the loop with AI. We let it do the import, but you do want to check, did things stay connected and linked in the order that you want them to go in? From there, scheduling and automation is going to be different based on when you did it in Enterprise Guide and we're potentially running it on a local server versus the scheduling and automation opportunities within SAS Studio Flows. So if you have a set of flows that are already scheduled, you may want to take a minute and understand the scheduling options before you try and migrate your whole workflow. And then being aware of the file types, such as the embedded files needing to be reattached once you come over. So again, why would we do this? Because you have the opportunity to create more custom steps. There's more already included. The updates are coming out faster, but you also have the Git integration to get the custom steps that are being shared through the open source and community development. You're also able to then take your flow and already have your files, your data files in SAS VIA, ready to push out into all of these other great technologies that you've been hearing about while you have been here. Your data is already easily accessible to your CAS server, to go into visual analytics, to be used in intelligent decisioning, to go into Model Manager, and it all works smoothly in a single environment as opposed to having to do some of it on one server and then go do other things in another area. And so as you're looking at moving towards VIA and taking advantage of all of those opportunities, it's important to start this process so that we don't have the risk of things getting lost if you're doing some things on a local machine and some things in the cloud. So, as I said, there are a lot of resources out there. These are being continually updated with the various updates from R&D. These links should be active on the PDF that's available. But if you are a SaaS admin who's looking at doing a large-scale transition, the YouTube resource of overview of bulk migration and content assessment goes through some of the opportunities there of doing a full content assessment of all Enterprise Guide projects within your organization. It helps you develop the mapping documents so that you don't have to do it for each individual file, and shows you the way to do it through CLI, so you're not doing it file by file. So with that, I wanted to just open it up for some questions, if anybody has any. Otherwise, I will not stand in the way of those of you who are in the room and the bunnies and goats and other various animals that are apparently down in the Innovation Hub. Thank you all.